Ray has successfully escaped from more than 14 maximum security prison. After years of studying every weakness imaginable, he even develops what should be the ultimate escape-proof prison. But fate has a twisted sense of humor. Ray ends up imprisoned, inside the very prison he helped design. Now he must find a flaw that even he never anticipated. Hey everyone, today we're recapping Escape Plan 2013. Let's jump right into it. At a federal prison in Colorado, Ray quietly studies the guards while burning a page from his Bible. Using the ashes, he begins sketching strange markings across the walls of his cell. His cellmate quietly warns him that another inmate is planning to attack him in the yard the next day. When the time finally comes, Ray doesn't wait to be ambushed. He strikes first. Within seconds, he takes down 3 inmates, displaying incredible fighting skills and leaving them badly beaten. The guards rush in, restrain him, and throw him into solitary confinement. The only personal item he's allowed to keep is his Bible. Over the following days, Ray carefully studies every detail of the guards' routine, their smoking breaks, their patrol schedule, even the electronic keypad securing his cell. He also begins making small paper balls using toilet paper and water, hiding them inside the cardboard roll. During one meal, he quietly removes the thin plastic film from a milk carton and secretly keeps it. One afternoon, Ray casually asks a guard for the time. The moment he gets an answer, he silently begins counting the seconds in his head. Meanwhile, a mysterious woman parks a car outside the prison. As she walks away, she presses a remote control. The vehicle suddenly explodes. Every guard rushes outside to evacuate the inmates, but when they return, Ray is gone. Moments later, a fire truck arrives to put out the flames. Only then do they realize the impossible. Ray is hiding inside the truck, disguised as a firefighter. He escapes without anyone noticing and drives away with his partners, Hush and Abigail, the masterminds behind the explosion. After dropping Ray off at a small roadside store, they hand him a single coin. Using a payphone, Ray dials a specific number and calmly says only 3 words. It's showtime. Within minutes, police officers surround him and place him under arrest once again. Oddly enough, Ray doesn't seem worried in the slightest. He knows his partner Lester is already taking care of everything. Later, the truth is revealed. Ray and Lester work for a private company hired by the government to test prison security system. Ray's job is simple: break into prisons, then break right back out. He's already escaped from 14 different facilities. Ray explains exactly how he escaped this time. He spent days studying the prison's layout and every guard's daily routine. Eventually, he discovered an unprotected fire garage. Then he intentionally picked fights with other inmates to guarantee a transfer to solitary confinement. From there, he noticed something unusual. Whenever the guards stepped outside for a smoke, he was completely alone. Before the operation, Ray secretly mailed a letter to his team, hiding the escape date inside coded message. Using the transparent plastic from the milk carton, he lifted fingerprints from the keypad and stored the film safely inside his Bible. With 4 fingerprints identified, the puzzle was almost complete. Ray then jammed the food slot in his cell door using the small paper balls, preventing the locking mechanism from fully engaging. Whenever the guards left, he'd slip his hand through the opening and test keypad combinations until he found the correct one. During the chaos caused by the explosion, Ray quietly walked out of his cell. He hacked the security cameras to hide his disappearance, then crawled through the ventilation system until reaching the area where the fire would soon break out. By the time Abigail detonated the car outside, everything was already perfectly in place. The furious prison warden has no choice but to let Ray walk away. Later, back in Los Angeles, Ray helps Hush solve a few computer problems before meeting Jessica, a representative from the CIA. She offers him the most dangerous assignment of his career. The CIA has secretly built a prison so secure, even its location is classified. If Ray can escape from it, he'll be paid $5 million instead of his usual $2.5 million. Abigail and Hush immediately have doubts. The job feels different, but Ray accepts without hesitation. Jessica gives him a new identity. He'll enter the prison posing as an explosives expert and international terrorist named Portos. His inside contact is supposed to be the prison's warden, Willard Hobbs. She also gives Ray a special emergency evacuation code, just in case something goes wrong. A few days later, in New Orleans, Abigail and Hush remain uneasy about the lack of information surrounding the mysterious prison. As a precaution, they implant a tiny tracking device into Ray's arm. Soon afterward, Ray deliberately gets himself arrested. He's restrained and thrown into the back of a transport van. But before the journey gets very far, masked men scan his body. Within seconds, they discover the tracking chip and surgically remove it. At the exact same moment, Abigail watches the tracking signal disappear from her computer screen. Then Ray is injected with a powerful sedative. Everything goes dark. Sometime later, Ray wakes up inside a helicopter. Still barely conscious, he witnesses a guard named Drake brutally stab another prisoner before throwing him out of the aircraft as if he were nothing. Realizing Ray is awake, Drake orders his men to sedate him once again. When Ray finally regains consciousness, he's arrived. But this prison is unlike anything he's ever seen. Instead of ordinary cells, the inmates are locked inside transparent glass cubes suspended high above the ground. Every guard wears a black mask, hiding their identity, and a massive surveillance sphere constantly moves overhead, watching every prisoner from every angle. After being processed, Ray is escorted to meet the prison's warden, a man named Hobbs. Immediately sensing something is wrong, Ray mentions the emergency evacuation code he was given. Hobbs stares at him blankly. He either doesn't recognize the code, or simply doesn't care. During recreation time, Ray watches guards mercilessly beat any inmate who steps out of line. Every prison uniform contains a special barcode that's scanned whenever someone passes through a security door. Then Hobbs announces Ray's fake identity over the loudspeakers, making sure every inmate knows exactly who has just arrived. Not long afterward, a group of troublemakers surrounds Ray, hoping to intimidate the new arrival. They picked the wrong guy. Ray instantly snaps the leader's hand, then drops him with a single punch before anyone else can react. Before the fight escalates, another inmate steps in. His name is Emil. He tells the others to back off. Emil introduces himself and explains that he once worked for a man named Mannheim, a legendary criminal known for stealing from the rich and helping the poor. Now Mannheim is one of the world's most wanted fugitives. Even so, Emil refuses to reveal anything about him when Hobbs questions him. Ray quickly realizes that Emil isn't like the other prisoners. Meanwhile, Hobbs scolds Drake for killing the prisoner aboard the helicopter. According to him, that inmate had been captured for one of their clients. That comment reveals something disturbing. Not everyone locked inside this prison is actually a criminal. Some are simply valuable assets someone paid to make disappear. It's also revealed that Hobbs owns a copy of a book written by Ray himself, a book explaining how to build escape-proof prison. The irony couldn't be greater. For the rest of the day, Ray quietly studies every corner of the facility, carefully observing the prison's layout, the guards' routines, and the inmates' behavior. One detail immediately catches his attention. The Muslim prisoners still know exactly when to pray, even though there's no visible sunlight anywhere inside the prison. Emil notices how closely Ray studies every detail around him and points out that he's pretty good at getting favors inside the prison. Ray explains that he needs access to solitary confinement. Eager to help, Emil suddenly punches him in the face. Ray punches back, but Emil just laughs. Ray keeps swinging, turning it into a full-blown fight until the guards rush in and drag both of them to isolation. The isolation cells are nothing more than small metal boxes with blazing lights on both sides, baking the prisoners in unbearable heat. Enduring the torture, Ray carefully inspects every inch of the box, searching for anything he can use to escape. A few days later, Dr. Kyrie checks on his condition but stays silent when Ray tries to ask questions. As the doctor leaves, Drake confronts him, demanding to know what they talked about. Kyrie lies to him, though it's clear he still has a conscience. Back in the general population, Ray begins sketching on a table, explaining to Emil that he'll need a piece of metal if they're going to escape. He also promises to take Emil with him if he helps. Emil asks to speak with Hobbs and pretends he's willing to reveal Mannheim's location, requesting a sheet of paper to draw a map. Instead, he hands over a childish doodle. Furious, Hobbs orders his men to hold Emil underwater. While enduring the punishment, Emil manages to steal a metal drain cover from the common area. He later gives the metal cover to Ray, who finally reveals his true identity and explains how he ended up in this prison. After studying the structure, Ray realizes the facility is underground. He also notices that the hatch above the isolation box could become their way out. Because of the humid underground air, the steel rivets have started to rust. His plan is to spread toothpaste over them and use the metal cover to generate enough heat to loosen the rivets. To begin the next stage of the plan, Ray and Emil need to get sent back to isolation. Emil picks a fight with Javid by insulting his mother. Javid's fellow inmates immediately jump in to defend him, and Ray, after hiding a loaf of bread inside his clothes, joins the brawl as well. Before the fight can escalate, the guards storm in and bring everyone down with tasers. Back inside the sweltering metal box, Ray gets to work on the rivets, hiding his movements with his own body. The intense heat makes the job incredibly difficult, and before long, his hands are bleeding. Whenever he makes too much noise, Emil covers for him by screaming in pain. After a long struggle, Ray finally removes every rivet. He then sticks the loaf of bread over the security camera before signaling Emil. Emil immediately starts crying and yelling in German, drawing the guards' attention. Taking advantage of the distraction, Ray opens the hatch and climbs down a ladder into a maintenance corridor. As he climbs through the pipes, he accidentally tears electrical cables and ruptures a few water lines. Continuing upward, he reaches another hatch and opens it, only to discover the shocking truth. The prison isn't underground at all. It's built inside a massive oil tanker in the middle of the ocean. Realizing guards are nearby, Ray quickly hides and climbs back down the hatch. As he drops, he notices the corridor rapidly filling with water, but manages to land safely. As the isolation boxes slowly begin flooding, an alarm echoes throughout the prison, and the guards rush to pull the prisoners out. Ray swims through the rising water, fighting the pressure as he climbs back up the ladder. He slips into his box just seconds before the guards arrive to retrieve him. Meanwhile, Abigail and Hush inform Lester that Jessica's payment has been frozen, but Lester assures them he's already spoken to her and everything is under control. Once the flooding is dealt with, Hobbs discovers the missing rivets in Ray's cell and immediately grows suspicious. A phone call soon reveals that Lester has been in contact with Hobbs the entire time. Lester exposes Ray's real identity and orders Hobbs to keep him imprisoned indefinitely. He also asks whether Hobbs has learned anything about Mannheim, explaining that banks around the world are searching for him. Hobbs suspects Emil is helping Ray, and Lester gives him permission to break Ray however necessary. Over the following nights, Ray tries to sleep, but one of the guards repeatedly pounds on the wall to keep him awake. Every morning, the same guard beats him as a wake-up call. Day after day, the routine continues. Ray's body becomes so weak he can barely stand. Emil does everything he can to keep his spirits alive, eventually sharing his own story. Years earlier, Ray had been a prosecutor. One of the criminals he sent to prison escaped and murdered his entire family in revenge. The sketch Ray keeps drawing is the last image he has of his son. Since that day, he dedicated his life to making sure dangerous criminals never escape again. Even through constant physical and psychological torture, the bond between Ray and Emil grows stronger, with both men finding strength in each other's tragic past. Over the next several days, Ray carefully studies the guards' routines, giving each of them nicknames based on their body types and habits. He's searching for anything that might help them escape, but without any outside reference points, figuring out their exact location remains nearly impossible. After their failed escape attempt, Emil quietly stabs Ray during lunch, forcing him to be taken to Dr. Kyrie's office for stitches. Pretending to be in severe pain, Ray uses the distraction to steal a few useful items from a nearby tray. He reminds Kyrie of the Hippocratic Oath, but the doctor still refuses to answer any of his questions. Back in the common area, Emil hands Ray a pen and a pair of prison-issued glasses. Hidden beneath the table, Ray builds a simple instrument that will help determine their location using the stars. Drake and Hobbs notice suspicious movements on the security cameras, prompting Hobbs to summon Ray. Luckily, Ray hides the homemade tool just in time. During the interrogation, Hobbs reveals that he knows exactly who Ray is. He even admits he used Ray's own book to help design and secure the prison. Confident that Ray will never escape, Hobbs says he's willing to keep him locked away forever. Ray lies, claiming he can get information about Mannheim from Emil. Returned to the common area, Ray shares the next phase of the plan. While feeding Hobbs false information, Emil approaches Javed, secretly handing him the homemade instrument. He promises to help Javed escape if he cooperates. Javed immediately reports the escape plan to Hobbs. In exchange for the information, Hobbs rewards him by allowing him to pray outdoors according to his religious beliefs. That night, Javed uses the instrument from his new cell to calculate their coordinates. The next day, he secretly passes the notes to Ray during lunch. Combining those coordinates with the local weather, the date mentioned by a newly arrived inmate, and even the direction the water spins inside the toilet, Ray finally reaches a conclusion. They're somewhere off the coast of Morocco. Next, Ray swallows some laundry detergent to make himself sick, earning a trip to Dr. Kyrie's office. Once they're alone, Ray tells the doctor to go to Hobbs' office and read a specific page from a particular book. After some hesitation, Kyrie checks the book and discovers the Hippocratic Oath. The following day, Kyrie asks the guards to bring Ray in for another medical checkup. Ray wonders how he knew the exact page, and Kyrie asks who he really is. Ray reveals that he was the one who wrote that page, finally proving his identity and convincing the doctor to help him. Ray then feeds Hobbs a fake location for Mannheim, buying himself 24 hours before Hobbs realizes he's been deceived. Meanwhile, Javed also asks to speak with Hobbs and informs him that a prison escape is about to happen. Hobbs rushes to the security room and notices Ray tapping on the wall of his cell. Recognizing the Morse code, he deciphers a message revealing that a riot is planned in cell Block C during the prisoner transfer. As most of the guards are dispatched to Block C, Javed starts another riot in the common area, and within seconds the entire prison erupts into chaos. While Hobbs desperately redirects his men, Ray, Emil, and Javed overpower the few guards left behind and steal their weapon. The reinforcements quickly regain control of the rioting inmates, but they also deploy tear gas, allowing the trio to slip away unnoticed. Ray explains they have only 11 minutes before their rescuers arrive by helicopter. They sprint upstairs, blasting open a locked door. Before moving on, Ray spots a security camera. Since the cameras are linked together, he tampers with it, shutting down the entire surveillance system. At that exact moment, Hobbs activates the facility's full lockdown protocol. Just as the trio reaches an exit, they find it sealed shut. Forced to change course, they wander through the corridors searching for another way out until they're surrounded by guards who immediately open fire. They return fire without hesitation, taking down the guards one after another, but Javed is wounded during the shootout. More guards are closing in, so Ray and Emil drag Javed toward cover behind another blast door. Ray quickly realizes they're being tracked by motion sensors, so he disables the system before it can give away their position. Over the loudspeakers, an enraged Hobbs taunts Ray, trying to get inside his head. Ray decides there's only one option left. He has to reach the engine room and shut down the ship's power. He hands his weapon to Javid and tells him and Emil to head upstairs. As soon as Ray leaves, Javid quietly admits he won't make it. He takes Emil's gun as well and tells them to keep going without him. Moments later, Javid is surrounded by guards. In one final act of bravery, he makes sure to take down every last one he can before a hidden sniper finally brings him down. When Hobbs reaches him, Javid whispers his final prayer before being executed. Meanwhile, Drake catches up with Ray in the engine room. Ray dives for cover, narrowly avoiding a hail of bullets before sneaking behind Drake and launching a surprise attack. During the fight, Drake loses his gun but pulls out a knife, turning the battle into brutal hand-to-hand combat. After exchanging several heavy blows, Drake manages to choke Ray for a few seconds before kicking him to the floor. Ray grabs Drake's leg, throws him off balance, and the fight resumes. Both men grab nearby tools as improvised weapons. After another vicious exchange, Ray shoves Drake down an open shaft, killing him instantly. Ray rushes to the control panel, knocks out a technician, and shuts down the ship's generators. The entire vessel goes dark. Without power, the prison doors automatically unlock, allowing Emil to escape. At that moment, a helicopter arrives and opens fire on the ship before landing on the deck. Several armed men jump out and immediately engage the guards in a fierce firefight. Emil carefully makes his way through the chaos, dodging bullets until he reaches the helicopter. One of the soldiers has already been shot, and the pilot wants to leave immediately. But Emil insists they wait for Ray. He grabs the mounted machine gun and joins the battle, mowing down dozens of guards in seconds. Meanwhile, Hobbs searches the engine room for Ray, unaware that he's hiding inside a large water tank. The guards restore power to the ship, forcing Emil and the rescue team to lift off. Inside the tank, the water level rises rapidly, threatening to drown Ray. But just before he runs out of air, the tank automatically drains, ejecting him straight into the ocean. Ray immediately swims to the surface. Emil throws down a ladder, but as Ray climbs aboard, Hobbs and the remaining guards open fire. Emil hands Ray a rifle and together they return fire. During the exchange, Emil is shot in the shoulder. Unable to hit the constantly moving helicopter, Hobbs watches as Ray shoots several nearby fuel tanks, triggering a massive explosion that kills Hobbs once and for all. A few hours later, the helicopter lands on the Moroccan coast, where Jessica is waiting for them. The truth is finally revealed. Emil is actually Mannheim, and Jessica is his daughter. She hired Ray to break her father out of the prison. She also confirms that Lester betrayed them and has been working behind the scenes all along. Sometime later, Ray reunites with Abigail, who has uncovered Lester's latest scheme. It turns out he accepted an offer to become the new head of the prison program after Ray's failure. Now, Lester is trying to disappear before anyone can catch him, but Rush is already waiting inside his car. With one quick punch, Lester is knocked unconscious. When he finally wakes up, he finds himself trapped inside a steel container sitting on top of a cargo ship in the middle of the ocean.